So listen, this might sound a little bit crazy, but I think I actually finally figured out the key principal root problem of my life as far as just living is concerned. The problem I've had was I didn't have a safe amount of contentness with my life. What does that mean? Let me explain. We as people are raised to value and believe that you have to meet a certain criteria in society to be considered successful and to be considered beneficial and ultimately to be considered a productive member of society. And unfortunately for myself, for the longest time, I was completely enveloped in that mentality in the worst ways possible. What that led to was me never being satisfied or content with the verifiable and measurable progress I made with my own life. Because I knew about the things that I wanted that I did not have. And I subconsciously presumed that because I don't have these things that I want, that it must mean I am the problem. There's something wrong with me. I'm the short circuit. I am the failure. Something along those lines. And I'm just now coming to terms and to grips with the fact that I can be okay. I can be okay and I can be content being alone. The truth is, I spent most of my life alone. Even when I'm right next to people, if you're not actually engaged in conversation and discourse and meaningful, development with another human being, functionally speaking, you are alone. And I've spent most of my life alone. Yes, I have family, and they did as bad, they've done as good a job as they reasonably could have done with all the, stumbling blocks put in front of them by society, which, by the way, I blame society for most of my problems in the sense of like how I developed and how I grew as a person and as a young adolescent man to where I'm currently at in life, which I'm pretty thankful with, and I'm pretty thankful for, pretty grateful for, but I'm also humble enough to understand my flaws, my shortcomings, and where they come from. And the ultimate failure on that part it's a bit of a rabbit hole, but I hold society accountable to that. But not to get off tangent, I'm finally okay being alone. You see, for the longest time, I just could not come to grips with the fact that for some odd reason I just could not seem to find a lady. And the ladies that seemed interested in me, for all intents and purposes, were women I had absolutely no interest in, because the options, the logistical options, were to either mess around with these gals and not commit to them, which is wrong. You should not do that. If you are a individual in a position where you have the opportunity to screw around with a gal that you had no intention of developing a real relationship with, you are the problem in society. You have a problem. Okay? Obviously, this is not the majority of men. This is actually the small minority and small subsection of men, because most men don't have that opportunity, ever. But the few times I did have that opportunity, I said no, because I understood that was a bad thing. But I still looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, why is it I can't seem to get any women other than these kinds of ladies who I have no interest in. I have no interest in them, and I don't want really anything to do with these women. Am I really that low on the hierarchy? Am I really that low on the pendulum scale? Am I having the unrealistic expectations? Am I the one with the unrealistic standards? And I would have these honest to God conversations with myself. And I would ask, friends and peers and whatnot, and ask them if I was the problem. And the conclusion I've now come to is that regardless of whether or not myself and those ladies were on the same scale in terms of, individuals who can be with each other and be happy with each other, I realized that I had to adapt. And the adaptation is, I'm okay. I am okay being alone. And that's not a sad thing. I used to think that was sad. I used to think that was cope. I used to think that was just something people who couldn't get a lady, or vice versa, get gals who couldn't get guys. I used to think that that was just a form of cognitive distancing, and in some ways it is. But I now realize that it's actually a form of freedom. You see, if you look at your life, you look at the things that you want and the things that you don't want, and you determine that you can be okay without these particular things in life that everyone in the world is telling you need to be happy, and that you need to be fulfilled, and that you need to be content, and you grow out of those shackles, that actually leads to fulfillment and happiness. And ironically and indirectly, that leads to you being more attractive to members of the opposite sex. And make no mistake, I don't want to be like this forever, but I have now decided that while I could take a lady on at this point in life, and I could actually provide something meaningful and worthwhile to her, and she could to me, the truth is that I have a lot of competition. Right? I'm doing good for men in my age group, but my real competition is not men in my age group. It's men who are 10 years older than me, men who have extremely established lives, who have their investments all figured out. They have houses, they have $500,000 in their savings and in their investments. Me, I don't have that. I'm getting pretty close to that, and that's impressive for somebody of my age range, and that's awesome. But as far as it's all concerned, I'm competing with people that are just out of my league. And the truth about men is that we kind of have a longer timetable when it comes to being attractive and competitive to women. Women don't. And I remember I had a brief conversation with my dad about this. I think he and I are on different ends of the spectrum. I think him and I probably disagree about that, which I think is honestly a bit of a shame, because I love my dad so much and I respect him a whole lot, but it just seems that I'm finding new things every day that are different about us. Where is the freaking place? But I'm just finding that me and my dad are just so fundamentally different, and I'm finding new ways in which we're different, over and over again, and I just can't seem to stop finding those differences. And this was a very big difference that I really, and I don't even think my dad understands my point of view on this. And frankly, I don't care to explain it to him, because I'd rather keep our relationship than be right about this. That's something I've also recently learned. Some battles are not worth fighting, even if you are right, or at least that you think that you're right. There you are, maybe. Yep, that's you. There you are. Even if you think you are right, and maybe even if you are actually right and correct in your viewpoint and your stance and your beliefs and your ideology, whatever, sometimes it's just not worth trying to prove it to certain members in your life, because you value those members, you value those people, and you don't want to lose them. I don't want to lose the relationship I have with my father. I don't think I'm anywhere near losing it. I think that me and my dad are great. We're fine. Sometimes, we get into scuffles. But anyways, this is off topic. Point is I'm okay, being alone. I'm 24. I'm turning 25 pretty soon. The way I have my life planned out for at least the next 10 years is pretty concise and pretty consistent. Pretty soon here, I think I actually will go to college. I'm able to do that without accruing any debt whatsoever. It's an opportunity afforded to me because I was in the military, and I'm thankful for that opportunity. I just need to make sure I don't waste it. While I'm doing that, I'm going to keep my investments up, make sure that my investments become, compounded, and they go up, they increase. And I'm just going to be on top of my health. This is day number 16, actually, of myself maintaining the carnivore diet. And frankly, I cannot believe I feel so good. I cannot believe I feel so good about it. In fact, I'll talk about that in my next video. But I'm actually okay. I am okay being alone. And I know that for a lot of people, they're just coping, and there's things they need to improve about themselves to actually make themselves, actually attractive to women. And I'm not saying that I've 100% made it in regards to my appeal towards ladies, right? Look, I'm not a Chad. I'm not Tyrone. I'm not whatever you call it. I'm not that guy. I'm not him. Okay, but I do understand that I've made a lot of progress, and that for all intents and purposes, I'm doing really well, and that a smart, valuable lady would see a guy like me, and she'd be like, heck yeah, I see a lot of potential in this guy. I think that I should try and go ahead and secure that man. And for the next 10 years, I'm just going to swear off even trying to find women. I'm going to just not even attempt it. Obviously, I'll still converse with ladies. I'll still talk. I'll still have, platonic group relationships. But I'm not going to pursue. I'm not. A lady is going to have to interject herself into my life at this point if that lady wants anything to do with me beyond being in a platonic group setting, And there is some somberness to that, but I know that I can still get married and I can still have kids at 35, which is 10 years from now. A lady, it's almost impossible for a woman who is 35 years old to find a good man and to get married to that man and then to have children with that man. Yeah, you can have kids at 35, that's true, but there is risks. And I also tried having that conversation with my dad as well. He just kind of blew it off. He pretended that it wasn't a reality and it wasn't a problem, and I think it's very naive of him. But again, I don't see a point in trying to change his mind. I really don't. But the main point is that I'm okay. I am actually content. And I'm actually finally content with my life. I like waking up in the morning. I like going to work. I like working out. I like eating. And the limited interactions I do get to have with folks, obviously I'm working nights, if you can't tell, but the limited interactions I do get to have with people, I enjoy them. I intensely enjoy them, and I'm going to continue to intensely enjoy them. So, with all that being said, all that out on the table, I can be content and I can be okay with not having a relationship, not having a woman in my life. And for full disclosure, if you made it to the end of this video, I'm a virgin. I've never had sex with a woman before, or a man. I get it, it's 2025, you have to declare these nonsensical things. I'm a straight male, and I've never had sex with a woman. And that used to be kind of a point of shame. And now I've realized it's actually just another point of freedom. The first sexual interaction I have with a lady, I promise you, it'll be with the woman I marry. It will be with the woman I marry. And no one else. Is that kind of a little bit hopeless romanticism? Yeah, probably, but And I've got faith. I've got faith that I can still find a lady. I just understand that maybe at this point in my life, now it's not the time to look for her. So yeah, those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed my words, I appreciate that. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to like. Frankly, I'm making these videos as more of like a time capsule of my own life and my own thoughts. And people are more than willing to go ahead and just look at them and ponder and, ponder along with me if they'd like to. Yeah, but anywho, take care.